stacking on this network kind of thing. What I found out, at least in Madhya Pradesh, but you can also see it still in Delhi, that this caste system here is actually still very much alive, and it's not at all a network kind of thing, right? So, especially when we talk about these rural areas, I would say breaking up with these cultural traditions and cultural, I don't want to say restriction, but somehow they are. How do you deal with this?
See, for that purpose, you have to understand India's society of 10,000 years. So it didn't happen overnight. Whatever we are dealing with, Indian society is an evolution of almost 10,000 years of human history. So originally humans migrated from Africa to west coast of India, and along with that they went to what you can call, through the west coast upward into what we will call Central Asia. From there some of them went to Europe. This is what is called Aryans, and some came to northern India, and then you see the history of in Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, about 7,000 year history of India, the civilization development. And then they came to what we call today Indo-Gigantic plains, so 3,000–4,000 years ago. And so India's sort of civilization is evolving. So the area issue which you have referred is a complex area, because Indian society has evolved through a long period, and as a result of which the societies had through different ages different ways of working. Now today the 21st century is an age where everybody is human, everybody has access to knowledge, everybody has access. We are living in our, Tom Friedman has called is a flat world, so everybody has access to everything, and we all are uniform. So for example, the constitutions of most countries provide everybody an equal right to vote, so we all are equal. But as India,
basically,
from the constitution and legal point of view, in India's constitution has provided everybody a right to be equal. But what you are referring is because of through the history, the societies were in different ways organized. Now that breaking those old traditions to new ones takes time. So now India has been a free country for a little more than 65 years. The constitution was adopted on 26 January 1950. So it is the breaking of the old kind of a social structures takes time, but I genuinely believe it is breaking very rapidly now. I genuinely believe, I am observing it in rural India, the old structures are breaking and the new systems are evolving. So now, from what you were referring earlier, even people from the backward classes of the society are now getting into high offices in various, whether it's the governments or the bureaucracy or the businesses. The process is happening, and I do see it. But it is, as I say, it is still a process. And the process, for me, whether it is the backward class society or poverty, they all are issues where the human beings have been left behind for, let's say, I will put it more because of the ignorance, because they were not educated, they did not get opportunities. Now the kind of work we are saying is no, everybody needs to get certain fundamental basics, which mean the education. Now the other issue which you have not referred, but I am observing is, there is a major issue of malnutrition in rural India. Now as much as 80% women in rural India are anemic. And if you look at the India's growth now, the population is growing. We are adding one Australia every year in terms of births. Actually, it's more than that probably, but somebody gave me latest figure is we are having 26 million births in India every year. It is that kind of a number now. And now here there are these 50 to 80% mothers who are themselves, are anemic. So in the process, what they are doing is they are producing children who may not be completely healthy. And from my Unilever knowledge, I learned that a child in 6 months in mother's womb And 18 months after being born, those 24 months are very crucial for mental development, because 80% of the brain develops in those 24 months.
So please go ahead.
Now for me, along with education, one of the fundamental things which needs to be addressed is nutrition. Because if the child's brain is not fully developed, then whatever education this child gets, it will be suboptimal. So now to get it to a perfect level, you obviously want a perfect, the issue you are referring about quality of education is, you obviously want a perfect system of first the methodology and pedagogy of the education. You want the child to be completely full nutrition in terms of a healthy growth. You want an environment where the child has infinite opportunities, because legally they have been given all the rights. But then along the way, are they sort of having what we call a level playing field for everybody? Are the children of these malnutrition women or poor people having the same level playing field as somebody else in urban India, who children are sort of, postgraduates and who have a full opportunity of nutrition and who have access to internet? And so, because we are in the flat world, whether the child of the poor person or a malnutrition woman has the same opportunity. So it's a process. And because I don't believe in any isms, I'm a practical manager. I believe in practical solutions.
Yeah. So what you're basically saying, we have to walk down like two paths. One is certainly education. The other one is making social business sustainable. Is there any way? Do you see any way to combine this? Does this mean
it is one. So you see, social business for me, even education is a social business. Bringing technology is social business. Bringing banking is a social business. Bringing market linkage is a social business. Because in my definition, an enterprise, if it has made a profit in year one, I find something wrong with it. Which means the market forces are too much monopolistic. But on the other hand, if a business in 5 to 10 years is not standing on its own leg, also I find it wrong. Because society cannot have whatever is running on a bleeding basis. Everything has to be, because ultimately, for me, it is about creating a balance where everybody gets a fair deal. So in education, take the example, let's say, if the child is not being educated properly, that school will close down. Because why should somebody a parent should send a child to the school if the school is not delivering value? Whether the parents are paying the fees or a government paying a fee, somebody is paying, but if the child is not being given the value, then school has no business to be in that teaching business. Or if a solar company is providing energy, now it has to stand on its own legs, ultimately.
So what you are saying is bringing the local people, or getting them ready that they are somehow capable, solving their own problems, making even profit, some kind of profit out of it, then it becomes sustainable. But if you look at the current school system, especially at the government schools, which are those who are in these rural areas, how can this map?
I genuinely believe that if the government school do not improve, they will die their own death. Why I say so? The place I am sitting right now, in this state, more than 50% children, Haryana, go to private school. So the government schools are irrelevant for this. Because ultimately the parents and the children are deciding their fate. They are not living. If the state subsidized schools are not delivering any value, the parents who are smart, they are saying, I don't want my child to be wasted there. No, I would rather pay fees from my hard-earned earnings, but I would want my child to develop properly. So that is why I say that everything has to produce a value. I even take at the level of government, a government which does not deliver a value has to be replaced. And that is what happens in the democratic system. The party or the government which is not delivering, then the people vote it out. So even for schools, which let's take the state school, ultimately it is, if the private sector schools are sort of, in fact in India's condition they cannot be called private sector, because nobody is, you can call private sector promoted school, because they all are run by, what we call charities or societies.
Yeah.
But let's say because they are privately sponsored, so they are funded and managed and all that, and those schools over a period of time are becoming autonomous, because parents are finding value there. Because ultimately, even in those schools, what is happening in those schools? The parents pay fees, children learn, children become higher, sort of capable people. So the parents find a value in that, and that is why they are self-sustaining. So it is that kind of process will happen. And democracy, the joy of democracy is it balances itself out ultimately, because in democracy people make the choice. They say, I want this way the system, I want that way the system, and ultimately a democracy is it balances itself out, and that will be the fundamental thing India will win in the sense it will correct itself out.
So you have a deep belief in India's democracy.
I genuinely believe democracy, not only India, across the world, is the right solution to society's problems. Because democracy will ultimately, as a humanity, collective creativity and wisdom of the humanity will find solutions for its, even the deepest and the most complex problem, it is the society themselves they will find.
So we were talking earlier about how to scale all these things. Since India now has somehow developed a middle class maybe of 300 million people, but there is still 1 billion somehow left behind.
About 800 million.
Or 800.
So if you want to match the numbers, let's say 300 million middle class, then if we have 1.2 billion, it's about 900 million in,
So how do you scale? Can you think in these dimensions?
Yes, I do. And India is going to be the very beautiful story in next 20, 30 years. I genuinely believe in it. Because what will happen, the youngsters, if you see this literacy figure I was giving you, it's only last 5, 6 years that suddenly there is almost a universal literacy coming into India. It had not happened in the previous 50 plus year of India's history. So this literacy itself is a new phenomenon. And all these India's demographics, so along with the democracy, it is the demographics. And as I say, we are adding one Australia every year. Now all these youngsters with education, they are sort of armed with education. And the right kind of, the gap I still see in where the social entrepreneurship plays a role is bridging this gap. On the one side, these youngsters are there are these opportunities are there, the social entrepreneurship has to connect all of this kind of thing, make these demographics dividend of India capable, and when that capability starts taking off, India is unstoppable story. I have seen China in early 90s. It was phenomena when the technology and the entrepreneurship was unlocking in China's value, and it started growing 14-15%. We had to, in our staff, in my role when I was running Unilever business in East Asia, we had to give them a quarterly increment. Every quarter we had to raise their salaries, otherwise they won't stay with us. Now the India will see this phenomena when we are sort of a right forces come together, and the basic thing is the younger generation starts getting this opportunity and a positive vibe happens in India. Then and India starts clocking. I genuinely believe India can clock a growth of 10%. 10% year-on-year growth means India will be doubling its economy every 7 years.
But I mean, the situation right now is that we have a growth about 5-6%, but the inflation is also like 10-11%.
No, current India's phenomena which I have analyzed now. India it's a very interesting of demographic evolution of India. India made a law called Right to Information.
Right.
That law, in the beginning, the law was made, but its implementation was slow. So what happened? There were people who were criminals who were still breaking the laws. Right? There is an inertia bit. By the time law is made and it gets, but slowly by let's say 2010, the law came into its sort of act. And then Indian law started catching up with the offenders, and they started going to jails. And as a result of which now, today India is in a state where right now, everybody is, at least at the Government of India level, the corruption to me has stopped at Government of India level today. So, but what it is leading is
huge words.
But yes, at Government of India's level today, to me, I am talking now, the date, you can mark it, 9th February 2013, corruption at Government of India level has stopped. Because bureaucrats are very nervous. And even ministers are nervous that if they make anything corrupt, that means through the right to information, any common person of India can find out what has happened. Even the notings on the files are public document now. There is nothing confidential in India, nothing secret. Barring few defense and other issues, there is nothing. So as a result of which, the bureaucracy is on alert, the politicians are on alert, but what it has led to is the slow decision making process, because people are very nervous at decision making level, and as a result of which now the enterprise is not getting a clear, like what we call a stable environment to promote an investment. So the investment has dried up in India. That is why this slow growth has happened. But I genuinely believe when the stable governments will appear in the states and later in the center, and the confident politicians who are not corrupt, they start making decisions in the interest of the society. And then the bureaucrats start writing it an objective basis based on the honesty and integrity, and they are not afraid. Like in my work, I talk everything because I'm honest. I'm more than 58-year-old. I have never ever given a bribe to anybody, never ever taken a bribe. And I make decisions because I have nothing, and I'm transparent, I'm honest. And we need more and more Indians to become honest and transparent, and they start making decisions confidently in the interest of the society with integrity intact. Then you see India will start rising. So I genuinely believe, let's say, the next general election after 2014, when whatever government gets formed in India, and of course my advice to large business houses who sort of fund a lot of political campaigns is that they also need to become honest. It is not only the government, politicians and bureaucrats, it's the business houses who fund elections also need that if they do not bribe the system, it is in their interest. I have worked for a corporation. I take a lot of pride by working in Unilever all my life. In Unilever, taking a bribe or giving a bribe is a crime. A person is straight away sacked. So I appeal to all the business houses across the world, do not give bribe and do not take bribe. All the executives who make decisions, because see nowadays if you look around, the economic decisions are more made in the corporate houses than in the governments. Because nowadays corporations are, if you draw the line of the economies and the corporations, the corporations are as powerful, they work across the world. So this phenomena of getting rid of corruption is a global phenomena. But India is part of the story. And in India, as I say, when I gave you the statement that on 9th February 2013, at Government of India's level, I don't see corruption happening. And that is, I'm talking of bureaucrats and government ministers. But I am not saying the businesses are not still doing. Businesses are still making their efforts, and this is unfortunate. So businesses also have to learn that it is in their interest to promote an honest and a transparent India.
So my last question would be coming back to your efforts with your trust you set up in 2009. So it's been...
No, I set up 2006, but 2009 we had it what we call a FCRA approved.
Okay. So what were your learnings? I mean, you've been many years out of India. You came back. I mean, being Indian is probably makes it easier than, when we come in. But what have been your learnings throughout this process, the major learnings?
No, major learnings is, I believe that honesty and integrity works through the ages. You go into the history and India also. So because I have lived my life with honesty and integrity, my parents left some lands for me in 3 villages. And my wife suggested, why don't we, sort of promote something, and it is, because we will also die, so how do we sort of manage these resources kind of thing. So she suggested an idea that why don't we start a trust on my parents' name, who left these lands for me, on my name, resources, lands and some properties in the villages. So we turned that into, we registered a trust, and its objective is basically the same what I just talked about. It's universal human development, well-being of the society, seeing a better world. So with those kind of objectives, we started the trust. But the legal system in India is that you need to be operating for a few years, doing something, then you have to go to the Ministry of Home Affairs, and then you have to make an application that there are some foreign collaborators who want to work with you. So to receive a foreign money, you need to have a FCRA approval from Home Ministry. And we made the application, and we did all our work transparently. They verified, the police verification, administration verification, all of that. They found everything transparent and they gave us approval. So, and did everything. I genuinely believe you can do business with the honesty and integrity in India, nothing will stop it. I'm an example of that. Yeah. Everything in my life I have lived, whether I started my education and of course at that time government schools were better. Unfortunate thing in India is government schools were 40 years ago better than today. I am a product of government school, but I studied science. That same school where I studied science is not teaching science. But my own philosophy has been that, okay, I studied with honesty, my parents and my family and my teachers gave me those, and I grew up. And then I went to university and I went to IIM, and then I worked for Unilever for a long period. All of that, but I have my values, for them, they are the most sort of, you can call precious for me.
Okay.
When I die, the only word I expect from whosoever will be on my grave is,
he was an
honest man. He was an honest man who has died at this place.
So we stop here.
Thank you.
Thank you.